And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, Talking Business. Another episode talking with leaders in the fields of insurance, banking, customer service, digital marketing, and business education. All to highlight work done by our team at CBSI Services in Harrison, New York. We provide insurance-backed benefits to the credit card and payments industry. And today we're very glad to have a recap with a good friend of ours, Rebekah Johnson, who is the CEO and president of Numeracle down in Arlington, Virginia. And Rebekah, how are you doing?
Doing great, Ken. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I mean, it's been a long, different year. I know we talked soon after the start of the COVID period, and so many things had to change quickly. How has the last few months been for you and your company?
So for Numeracle, it's been really good. We've been able to, help out our clients who are trying to deliver their communications, because boy, is 2020 all about making sure you can actually communicate with your customers. So we've seen an increase in the need, not only just for the typical everyday financial insurance type communications, but we've been involved in protecting the COVID tracing calls as well, due to the call blocking and labeling. So Ken, no surprise, I told you that anybody that delivers outbound calls can get caught up in this. So we're happy to be able to support our government agencies who are trying to protect, citizens of this country against COVID.
Well, that's something that you've been working on, finding different ways in the movement towards call blocking to allow businesses to be able to actually reach their customers when they need to. And you bring up the example of government agencies needing to reach people for tracing during COVID. And you've had to come up with a number of remedies, Sure Shaken program. What's the latest on that? And how have you been able to help your clients reach their customers or even members of the public for the tracing efforts?
Yeah, so the way that we help with that is through the registration. Numeracles does a verification and vetting of the entity, because what we don't want, at the same time, a lot of fraud has come about with COVID. And, bad robocallers pretending to offer tests or a remedy or a cure. So we cannot allow those types of callers to have their numbers registered and cleared on the analytics side. So Numeracle has the same process in place with regards to our verification and vetting of whoever it is that's registering. And I can tell you from the government side, they've all cleared on our side. We've only had one who truly didn't fit into the COVID tracing attempt to register. So no telemarketers should come through that path. But it's been able to work. Unfortunately, I think there's still a learning curve with the hospitals, local police, government. It's just kind of interesting. Each state has their own way of doing the COVID tracing. They're not fully aware that their calls might be blocked or labeled as spam. So we're trying to bring more awareness so that they can get those registered. And we charge nothing for that. That is just, I'm extending my technology to assist and help. There's absolutely no charge for anyone related to COVID communications to register.
And Rebekah Johnson, you were mentioning and the big shift that occurred when COVID became a big factor in the middle of March for the call center industry, and that being the shift to having agents work at home and rather than from contact centers. It had to be, the shift had to happen very quickly, had a number of considerations and setting and doing setups. What were how did that go for you and your clients? What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome?
Ken, it was such a whirlwind. We saw some of our clients completely shut down. If they were in the travel industry and entertainment, they had no reason to even shift their agents at home. Then we had other clients who were very much prepared, because the work at home agent is not a new concept. So some call centers and industries have embraced that concept. And it was interesting because when I called in just to check how are things going, they found, wow, we were very prepared for this. It was not a difficult shift. They had the technology, they had the training, their agents were fully aware. It's the ones who were stuck in the middle where maybe they kind of played around with the concept of at home, but never fully invested in it. they were the ones that found themselves almost having business halt, but they needed to continue because of the clients that they served. So we saw a lot of kind of going on pause, quickly pulling together resources and deploying their agents. What was really neat about this industry, which is why I love this space, is the technology solution providers were stepping up and fast tracking solutions for companies to be able to get their work at home agents up and running. So you really saw the whole industry come together to support, and that part was phenomenal to me.
And certainly, this has been another movement towards using cloud computing as a way for agents to receive the software packages that they needed to be able to run the apps, and then also to have access to the data. How did that work for you in utilizing cloud computing technology?
So from Numeracle's perspective, I'm a big believer in remote working, and so we have always been, connected via the cloud, I guess, per se. I personally have not worked in an office in 10 years. So this shift for myself didn't change too much. The only change was a lot of different conferences now. I definitely miss the in-person conferences, just seeing people. I have learned that human interaction is still critical and important, and I would love to get back to that.
No, I think we all would, and but it is good to see you through video conferencing, and you've got a new initiative that you were working on, kind of a way to communicate with government officials. In fact, you said you were just working on a conference this morning with a couple of our friends, Stuart Discount and Bob Kovic and Michael Roth. Tell us a little bit about that effort.
Yeah, so, one of the things that I've been working on and focused on is helping the industry understand the rules and regulations as they come out. And the whole reason I have a company is because there were some challenges with the decisions that were made to combat fraudulent actors. So it's kind of like we're coming in and we're cleaning up the mess a little bit. I think the industry is kind of tired of that when it comes to contact center space and businesses. So I formed the Enterprise Communications Advocacy Coalition. We are not a conference. We are not going to have events. It is purely the industry's leaders pulling together. So like you mentioned, Stuart Discount, Mitch Roth, myself, and Bob Kovac covers the federal regulatory side, state AGs, then we come down into TCPA, TSR, and privacy rules and regulations. And we're going out into the industry and letting our regulators know we're here as a resource in order to be a part of solving problems, knowing that the enterprise side oftentimes has to deal with the unintended consequences of rules that come out. Why don't we be a part of working together to create a better environment for consumers when we're communicating? On the privacy side, I find that there are far more businesses that want to do the right thing than actually want to fight against it. So our members are very specific to that fact of they want to be collaborative with the federal government. If you want to fight the government, we're not the association for you. You can find someone else, but we think that we do better if we work together, and we're all based around here in the DC area. And it just makes sense for this group to be able to collaborate and extend that reach.
And Rebekah, you mentioned that the TCPA has generated considerable activity this year, as well as privacy concerns. There's privacy legislation in place. There's a new California initiative on the ballot this month that we have to follow that would strengthen the requirements in California, similar to those of Europe. What are some of the elements on these regulations, TCPA, and some of the other privacy regulations today?
Well, I think the interesting one with regards to TCPA, which it doesn't sound like it's new news with regards to the definition of ATDS. What I think is really interesting, though, is what the state is of this definition and what we have with regards to an ATDS being defined as something that has the potential capacity or present capacity to dial, random numbers. And we have a split with regards to how our circuit courts have made decisions. And so here we are, we're going to enter into the Supreme Court side of it. And there's just so much activity going on, even at that level, because our current new member of the Supreme Court, she did have an opinion in the Seventh Circuit on the present capacity interpretation. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Supreme Court will rule on for ATDS. It really could change the way that we view the TCPA. If we find ourselves that in order for something to be determined in auto dialer, it has to have present capacity, we're going to find that a lot of companies look at their technology and go, well, I don't have present capacity. What I'm fearful of is that then we'll take this loose interpretation perhaps and then just blast consumers with telemarketing calls without proper consent. And I hope that we don't take that approach as an industry, but if it happens, we could find ourselves having a whole new set of rules and definitions. So I think we're just getting started on some major changes when it comes to communications, and the TCPA is going to get a look in a way that it's never been looked at. So that's one to watch for sure. That can change the game.
Very good. Rebekah Johnson, maybe just tell us a little bit about the services your company provides your clients in the field of telecommunications and contact centers.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, what we do from Numeracles perspective is we register numbers and provide legal entities who are operating in compliance with the ability to find out how the carriers are treating their numbers, how the analytics are rating their numbers. And if you pass through our verification and vetting, then we will make sure that fraud is removed from the labeling of your calls. The next thing that we're doing, Ken, is we are preparing our clients for Stir Shaken. The Trace Act has, is full effect. The FCC has been very busy, and we do have a mandate for June 2021. So for businesses that want to communicate, you have to pay attention to what's going on with Stir Shaken, and Numeracle, as always, is preparing our clients for that next wave.
And Rebekah, maybe you should just do another 30-second description of Stir Shake. And I think it's a high-tech means to allow businesses to contact their customers. Maybe you could just give us another level of detail about what's involved with that capability.
Yeah, so Stir Shaken is mentioned in the Trace Act. The Trace Act is really focused on authenticated caller identification. Again, these laws are focused on consumers. We want to make sure that consumers have the proper information they need when their phone rings so that they can make a decision on to answer or not. Stir Shaken is the standard through which telecommunications will update their networks to communicate and transfer this information to the subscriber. So it matters to businesses of any type if you are using a dialer or using a phone to communicate that you are aware that your service provider, whoever's providing your calls, is implementing the Stir Shaken framework. And that is a mandate. This is not an option. So you need to find out how your providers are staying up to date on that. The next question that you're going to want to ask is, how are you making sure that my identity is traveling along with all my communications? And I'm always here to help on those conversations if anybody needs that.
Well, I have to ask you that, but Rebekah Johnson, you are an expert in this field and key on helping customers, businesses be able to reach their customers. So important to us in the banking business and the credit card field, and helping your clients in this new environment of working at home. Really great to check back with you. Just a final thought, what do you see happening going into next year?
Oh my goodness. I think we're all going to be much better at online conferences next year. Everyone's an expert in technology. I hope children are back in school. That would be one of my things. But when it comes to the regulatory aspect, there's just going to be more rulemaking from the FCC that as they implement the Trace Act. And I would watch whoever's president. I think that that's going to change some things as well. So with regards to the coalition that I'm on, we are monitoring that because we might have to put boots on the ground to start having conversations about how things are going to start flipping and changing. So gosh, 2020 is just going to end quite wild. I mean, it is an election year too. That's just amazing.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to watch because the regulatory agencies will go through a lot of changes. Their chairman will oftentimes change, new directions, new priorities established. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. Rebekah Johnson, President CEO of Numeracle, based in Washington, D.C. Are you actually in Arlington or Alexandria?
I'm actually in McLean.
McLean, okay. That's okay. Now we got it. McLean, Virginia, beautiful place, right overlooking our nation's capital. And Rebekah Johnson, always a pleasure. You are an expert, offer great perspective on so many issues in the regulatory aspects of telecom. Good to chat with you today.
You can, as always.
Our pleasure, and great to talk with Rebekah Johnson. And this is Ken Kraetzer for CVSI Services, representing our team in Harrison, New York, taking care of clients in the payments and credit card space. So we'll look forward to doing this again and calling here from my home office in White Plains, New York. This is Ken Kraetzer for CVSI Services. Have a great day, everybody.